I mean, I was looking at our credit card bill today, and it feels like everything is actively trying to squeeze us right now. Groceries, insurance.
Well, that's exactly what the Federal Reserve spent the last 2 years doing, deliberately making your life more expensive.
Which is just insane to think about.
Right, higher mortgages, higher credit card payments, higher literally everything. But here is what almost nobody realizes. Every single time the Fed has done this over the last 50 years,
It breaks the economy?
it accidentally creates the exact conditions that turn a group of regular people into millionaires.
Okay, I need a second. You're telling me this financial pain everyone is feeling is actually a millionaire-making machine?
Historically, yes, and not hedge fund managers, not tech founders, regular people who understood what the pain actually meant. The problem is, by the time most people figure out what happened,
I see. The window is already closed.
exactly. But if you can spot that window before the crowd does, well, that changes everything, and that's what we are doing today. I'm Frank.
And I'm Lynn. Welcome to Talk and Wonder. We create easy-to-understand whiteboard animations covering family finance, investing, passive income, and debt management.
Our goal is to break down complex financial topics, help you avoid traps, and build wealth together. If you want to secure your future, you are exactly in the right place. So, let me show you the trap the Fed built for itself, because once you see it, everything happening right now starts to make sense. Go back to early 2020.
Oh, God, the shutdowns.
Yeah, the world basically shuts down. The stock market drops like, what was it, 34% in a single month?
It was terrifying. I mean, we literally thought the financial system was collapsing.
Right, and the government's response was immediate. Print money. The Federal Reserve created more dollars between 2020 and 2022 than its entire previous history combined.
Wait, more than the entire decade before?
No, its entire history. The money supply went from around 4 billion, no, wait, let me back up, 4 trillion to over 20 trillion.
From 4 to 20 trillion in 2 years?
Yeah, and at the exact same time, interest rates got slashed to basically zero. So, when it's practically free to borrow money,
Everyone borrows. I mean, people were scrambling to buy houses with those 2.5% mortgages. Businesses were expanding.
investors borrowing to buy stocks, exactly. All that cash floods into the economy and pushes prices higher and higher until, bam, by mid-2022, inflation was over 9%.
The highest in over 40 years. And here's the quiet tragedy of that. If your paycheck didn't jump by that same 9%, which, let's be honest, for most people it absolutely didn't,
You got poorer, quietly, steadily, every single month. So the Fed does the only thing it can do. It reverses course, jacks up interest rates from near zero to over 5%.
In what, like a year?
Pretty much, it was one of the most aggressive rate hike cycles in American history. And here is where most people just stop paying attention. They think the story is just things got expensive, rates went up, the end.
Right, guess I'll just buy less Starbucks. But that's not the story at all.
No, it's not. The real story is what happens next, because right now the Fed is trapped. Rates are elevated, but inflation is stubborn. So they can only do one of two things, and both of them.
Both are basically poison pills.
Yeah, exactly. Option one, they keep fighting inflation. They keep rates high, keep squeezing borrowing, keep making life expensive. If they do that long enough,
Something breaks.
something breaks. Businesses that relied on cheap debt start failing. Mortgages stay totally unaffordable for an entire generation. The economy slows, then contracts, then crashes. That's a recession.
Which sounds terrible for everyone, but that's actually the millionaire-making part, isn't it?
Because, historically, recessions are when assets go on sale. That's when a very small group of people step in and build serious wealth.
Right, but what if they don't do that? What if they take the other pill?
Ah, the part nobody talks about. The Fed blinks. They see the economy slowing down, like GDP hitting maybe 0.5% in Q4, and they panic. They cut rates to save the economy.
Wait, but we're not in a normal slowdown. This slowdown was caused by inflation, so if they cut rates now, wouldn't that just...
Pour gasoline on the fire? Yes, because you can't fix an inflationary slowdown with more inflation.
So money gets cheaper again, and cash just floods right back into the system.
Exactly. And where does that cash go? Into assets, stocks, real estate, gold, Bitcoin, literally anything that isn't cash, because your cash is losing value faster than ever.
Okay, this is the part that I think breaks people's brains, because we're taught that in a crash, prices fall.
Yes, in a normal slowdown, stocks go down, you buy the dip. But in an inflationary spiral, the crash doesn't look like prices falling, it looks like prices rising.
And your money just buys less and less of them every month. Wow.
So, either way, recession or inflation, the people who aren't positioned get absolutely crushed, while the people who understand this dilemma, they make moves that change their financial lives for the next decade.
But see, that's what's so frustrating about this, because you can be doing everything right. You go to work, you save a little money, you pay your bills.
And you still feel like you're drowning.
Exactly. Like, let's think about a regular guy in this situation, say a logistics manager. Let's call him David.
Okay, David.
David is 36, brings home, I don't know, maybe $70K a year. He's responsible, he's got some savings.
Right, he's got some savings. Let's say he has, maybe $40,000 in a 401k?
That he probably hasn't even looked at in 2 years because the market makes him nervous.
Exactly. And maybe another $12,000 in a regular savings account, earning basically nothing.
And he and his wife are probably trying to save for a house. I mean, remember when we were looking for our first place? You literally refresh Zillow every morning and just watch the goalpost move further away.
It's brutal. So look at David's choices here. If the Fed holds rates high and we get a recession, David's company might start cutting jobs, his retirement account drops like 30 or 40% on paper.
And the news is just wall-to-wall doom.
Right. So what does he do? Does he keep contributing to his retirement account while prices are low, or does he freeze up and stop?
He freezes because he's terrified. Anyone would be.
But then flip it. Say the Fed cuts rates and we get more inflation. David's situation is different, but honestly, it's just as dangerous.
Because his $12,000 in savings is losing purchasing power every single month.
Exactly. His salary doesn't keep up, that first house gets even further out of reach, and the assets he doesn't own, stocks, real estate, they just keep climbing away from him.
While the people who already own them just get richer. And the craziest part is, David isn't doing anything wrong. He goes to work, he's responsible, he saves.
But the system is moving underneath him in a way that actively punishes people who only earn a paycheck and don't own assets, and he doesn't even know it's happening.
A silent wealth transfer.
Yeah. And this is where the story goes deeper than just the Fed, because over the last 15 or so years, real personal income in the U.S., meaning what people earn after inflation, has actually fallen behind its long-term growth trend.
So the money you expected to be making by the time you're in your 30s or 40s, you're probably not making it.
You're not. But meanwhile, and this is the kicker, corporate profit margins are sitting near multi-decade highs.
Wait, so David's employer is making more money than ever?
Record profits, but very little of it finds its way into David's wallet.
So where do those profits go?
To shareholders, into stocks, into real estate, into assets that compound. That is the split that's quietly reshaping this entire country. If you only earn a paycheck, you are falling behind a curve you can't even see.
Because the gap between those two groups, the wage earners and the asset owners, it isn't closing, it's accelerating.
And every year you stay on the wrong side of it, the harder it gets to cross over, which is why the next 12 to 24 months matter so much.
It's not about making a quick day trade or picking the next hot crypto.
No, it's about getting onto the asset side of this divide before the next major move, whichever direction it goes. But I know what people are thinking right now. They're thinking, Frank, if I buy assets now and prices fall, I'm going to lose all my money.
I mean, right? That is the ultimate fear. You put your hard-earned money in, and suddenly the screen turns red, and you're like, well, I just ruined our family's future.
Exactly. But let's actually look at the math here, because this is where the math gets impossible to ignore. Say rates stay high, the economy slows, asset prices fall.
And you see those red numbers.
You see the red numbers, and this is where most people make the mistake that cost them a decade. Because that drop, it's on paper. It's temporary. If you've been buying consistently, what we call dollar cost averaging, you are now purchasing assets at a massive discount.
So it's like, okay, I mean, we literally do this. When Target has a clearance sale on household stuff, I am there. I'm stocking up. But when the stock market goes on clearance, people run away screaming.
That's literally it. You are getting more shares of real companies with real earnings at lower prices. The data on this is just relentless. Look at late 2021 to late 2022.
Okay.
The S&P 500 dropped about 25% from its peak. So companies that were worth $1 was suddenly selling for 75 cents.
Same companies.
Same companies, same revenues, same products, just cheaper because fear took over. And about a year later, it had fully recovered and then some. Or, go back to the COVID crash in 2020.
Ugh, don't remind me.
The S&P fell 34% in just over a month, bottomed in March, fully recovered by August, and finished the year roughly 68% above its low.
Wait, what? 68% in the same year it crashed?
In the exact same year. So if David just keeps buying through a recession, the assets he already owned recover in price, and the assets he bought on the way down ride the recovery up.
Generating new profits he would never have had if he'd just frozen. Okay, I get that side. But what about the other side, if inflation just keeps going up?
Asset prices rise, and that's not a guess, Lynn. That is just arithmetic.
Because they're priced in dollars?
Exactly. Stocks, real estate, they're priced in dollars. So when the dollar buys less, those prices go up in nominal terms. Your house doesn't physically get bigger, your stock shares don't multiply, but the number on your screen climbs.
Because the ruler we use to measure it, the dollar, is shrinking.
The ruler is shrinking, yes. When prices rise across the economy, companies' revenues rise too. Higher revenues push earnings up. Higher earnings push stock prices up. You're not making a bet, you're riding a wave that's already moving.
Okay, but let's go back to David for a second. David cannot buy an apartment building to ride this real estate wave. He's already priced out of his first single-family home.
Right, he can't buy the whole building, but he can own a piece of the company that owns it. Have you ever looked into REITs, R-E-I-T-S?
Real estate investment trusts?
Right. They let David buy shares in companies that own or finance real estate. The REIT collects the income from those properties, and by law, they generally have to pay out at least, I think it's 90%. Yeah, 90% of their taxable income to shareholders.
So you're getting a piece of the rent checks.
Exactly. Companies like Vanguard or what's the other big one? State Street. They offer these high-performing REIT index funds. You spread your money across hundreds of properties for the price of a single share.
Which means you get the real estate exposure without ever having to go over at 2 a.m. to unclog a tenant's toilet.
Which is a massive win in my book. So, between stocks and REITs, David can get positioned on the asset side of this divide without a six-figure down payment and without quitting his day job.
Okay, that's huge. But Frank, that only works if David actually has the extra cash to invest in those things every month. What if he's literally tapped out?
Right, if he's literally tapped out, then we have to talk about the second lane. And honestly, Lynn, this one might matter even more than owning assets at first.
Okay, color me curious. What's the second lane?
You invest in yourself. Because if you don't own assets yet, or even if you do, your ability to acquire more depends almost entirely on your ability to earn.
Because you need seed money to feed the machine.
Exactly. And in a tighter economy, the gap between people with rare, valuable skills and people without them, it doesn't just shrink, it explodes.
Okay, give me some numbers. How big of an explosion are we talking about here?
Well, according to the Social Security Administration, men with bachelor's degrees earn approximately, let me get this right, $900,000 more in their lifetime than high school graduates.
900,000? Like almost $1 million difference?
Yeah, and for women, it's about $630,000 more.
Great. So your advice is for David to just casually drop 80 grand and go back to college for 4 years?
No, you don't need to go back to college. Not today, because online courses are everywhere now. I mean, think about AI, product management, digital marketing, software development.
So taking this back to David, he's in logistics, right? How does he actually use this without uprooting his whole life?
Okay, let's play it out. David decides to invest in himself. He spends, I don't know, maybe $1,000 and 6 months of his evenings learning how to use AI in his specific field, logistics.
Makes sense. So instead of binge watching Netflix, he's upskilling.
Right. Then he takes that new skill, applies it to his company's operations, and helps them cut expenses by, say, 15%.
Which makes him incredibly valuable to his boss, especially if the economy is slowing down and the company's desperate to save money.
Exactly. Now he's not just more skilled, he is inherently more valuable, and that leverage gets him a bump in income. Let's say that bumps him from $70,000 to $90,000 after taxes.
So that's an extra $20,000 a year, which is amazing for David, but how does that make him a millionaire, like you promised in the beginning?
Because that extra $20,000 a year isn't just income to go buy a nicer car, it's investment capital. If David takes that new $20K and invests it at an 8% annual return over 20 years,
Wait, let me guess. The compound interest.
it compounds into roughly $900,000 to $1 million.
Wow, just from learning one new skill and investing the raise?
The math isn't complicated. You earn more, you invest the difference, and you let time do, well, what time does. The people who come out of this cycle wealthier aren't just the ones who picked the right stock.
Or timed the bottom perfectly.
Right, they're the ones who attacked from both sides, owning assets that benefit from whichever path the Fed takes, and building the earning power to keep feeding those assets year after year.
Okay, logically that makes perfect sense. The math is undeniable. But Frank, if it's this mathematically simple, why do so many people freeze up like when the moment actually comes and the market is crashing? What actually happens in our brains that makes us do the exact opposite of what we should?